Okay, so now what we're leading into is we're going to go over what we call histograms. So histograms show they can have either a frequency account, like a number. So sometimes you might want to write that. They sometimes call that a count. Or they have the percentage. So we're going to see it looks similar to a bar chart, but over here is where they'll have the frequency. And as we're saying, it can just be a count, a number, or a percentage. It depends on which one you've got. And then we'll have because this is generally most histograms, not all the time, but is continuous numerical data. But we're going to do a few that could be considered discrete, but it's definitely a histogram is used for numerical data. And what you'll notice too, that there are no gaps. So because it's a continuous, the continuous is generally because you're counting, say the one before where we started at 30 and then we said from 35 and then you go 40. So here along there is a scale, like a continuous number line, yeah? So there's the continuous number line along there. So you don't put, when you're drawing them up yourself, see how it's just like a number line across there? Don't put even, you know how before when we had a category, you don't put the category, you just have the starting number of each category on the axis. So it's sort of like a number line along there. And you'll also see in a histogram, you don't have any gaps. So there's no gaps. So if you write that in there, so no gaps. Otherwise, that would be wrong. And so let's have a look. So here we've got a frequency table of, it said that we surveyed, obviously they surveyed the kids and asked how many siblings they had. So here's the number of siblings. So the number of siblings is a count from 0 to 6. This type of data, number of siblings would be discrete though, wouldn't it? Because you're not going to have half a sibling, but anyway. And you can see we go up. So there's 0 siblings, there was 6 people. So this one is just a count. It's not showing me percentages. And it's really important to look at that when you first see them because sometimes they'll be asking that. If we have a look here on this histogram, so here's what I'm saying. Even though the category is 170 to 174.5, you don't write it like that. It has to have a continuous number line. When you're drawing it up, the continuous number line. And so this is where a year 12 will lose marks if they don't have that. Sometimes they like to write it as the category, like they write this, the group. Don't do that. You're not going to get the mark. So we do that, and then you can see here, this is reading off at 4. So a histogram's a really good way to display the data because when I look at the table, sometimes it doesn't stand out as much as the histogram, the modal category. Right here, I can straight away see here's the modal category. So I know that most of these people, if their heights, most of them were between 180 and 185. Okay, much clearer. So if I was writing a report on this, I would say, so here's the N. I'd say 41 people were surveyed on their height. The most frequent height, the majority of people with 13 of the people had a height between 180 and 184.9, okay? And then I would go, and it continues down to the least amount of people, you know, the smallest being, least amount of people being in the 195 to 199, something like that. All right, we're going to now look at constructing a histogram on our calculators. So grab your calculators up. All right, so now we're going to look at how doing our histograms in our calculator. And I'm really going to show you need to get well on also, you know how before we had a change of, like we had categories of 5 going up in the heights. We want to know how, you need to know how to adjust that on your calculator as well. So even if you've done this before, you need to know all the other bits. It's very important this year. All right, so when you are constructing a histogram on your calculator, you first want to record your data into the calculator. So you click this green page down here and it's got a table and you get this screen here. Now, we have to get in the habit now of always labeling our list with a label that is relevant to what you're doing. Do not call it silly little labels, because when we get a lot of data and we want to make sure we're collecting or using the right list, you won't understand unless you've called it what it actually is. So this data says it displays 27 marks in the form of a histogram. So I'm going to say these are like marks in a grade, like in a score. So I'll just call it marks. That's fine. And now I'm going to enter in all those numbers. So I'm entering them in. I'm going to pause it. Okay, so I saw up here on the page where they asked me to look. Now they said 27, n equals 27. So when I've entered them into my calculator over here in lists and spreadsheets, I've made sure that I hit line 27. That way I know I've entered the right amount. And a good habit to do is, once you get to the end, is to you make your way up through your list, just pressing the up, because then you're having a quick visual look over, because sometimes you might have accidentally typed one in wrong. So say like you'll notice it. You go, oh my gosh, that one's 104 or something, because you haven't pressed enter. And that's a really good way to check, because often our mistakes in general math are just little silly errors. So we've got to try and work out ways to get rid of that. So once we've got the lists in, so all the instructions are here on our page. We've done that. We're going to click the home button. So click your little house, and we're going to go to a data statistics page, which is the pink one. You can see a little bar chart there. Okay, so once you're on this page, what you do is hover down the bottom. So you can see down there, and you should get that little question. It says click to enter a variable. So if you click, it will bring up your list. So now I go, yeah, I want that one because that's the one I did. And it automatically gives you a dot plot. That's what we have, a dot plot there. Now, to change it to a histogram, we're going to press menu, and it's very self-explanatory. Plot type, and then I go to histogram. So there I've got a histogram. But this histogram is going up in twos. And say I wanted it to go up in fives. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the bin. What they're called is bin settings. That bin there is a bin of 2. So it's going up in twos. So I want to change it. So if we press menu and plot properties and histogram properties, and then you go down to bin settings, we always want them to be the same, so equal bin width. And see there, at the moment, it's saying a width of 2. Well, actually, I want it to be 5, so I'm going to change mine to 5. All right? Alignment means where do you want to start? Say with the data before on height, you don't want to start at 0. Nobody's 0 height. And in your survey, I think the smallest person was like 160 or something. So you put it where you want it to start. But because this was marks, I don't know, we can start at 2, or I might start at 0. I'm just making this up. So it's just where you're going to start your bottom thing, and you click OK. Now, often you get this screen and you can't see the whole histogram, and we want to be able to see the whole histogram because often have to redraw it on our page. So the thing here, it'll tell you how to do it. You press menu and you go to window zoom, and zoom data is a really good one to pick, because then if you pick that one, see how it now popped that whole histogram. So I could copy that straight onto my page. Now, if a handy way to actually fill in a frequency table is to actually just do a histogram first, because you can look here. If I hover over the category, say here, it's telling me up in that brackets there that this is the 10 to 15 category and it had 9 points. It means it has a frequency of 9. Now, you know, sometimes we get asked to make them percentages. Well, our histogram can do that as well. So to change to percentage, go menu again, plot properties and histogram properties, and this one is the scale. And if you go to the scale, I can change it to percentage. So now I know that 10 to 15 category was actually 33%. And so I believe it's quicker on your calculator to put your list in, create a histogram, and then fill in your frequency table if you're asked to do that. It makes your life, you'll be quicker than you actually having to do it and calculate it. All right, so let's have a look here. Let's do this next one. So a group of 20 students were surveyed about the number of days they completed homework. So let's pop, all you want to do is pop the list in. So let's have another go and do that. I'm going to pause this. All right, so we've put our list in. We got to 20. Now I'm going to go get a histogram. So I'm going to go home over here. If I click enter, there's my homework list. That's the one I want. Automatically get a dot plot. I press menu, plot type, histogram. Now it's doing something weird. I don't like the categories down here. I'm not sure how it's going up. It is going up by 1, but let's just fix it up so it starts where we want to. So histogram, probably bin settings. I'm just going to make sure that's on 1. It is. And the alignment, if it's, because it's, yeah, that's okay. It starts on 0, so you click OK. All right, so this is all the ones, and it got 7 points. If you go to the 2s, there was 5, so I can pop that in there. If I go to the 3, it's 3, and you can see I could have typed all those in there. Okay, now it says to fill it in, so we could just quickly copy that in. So we've got 5. So use your ruler. Then you got 3. Oh, sorry. And then the last one is 2. Oh, mine's a bit messy. Sorry. But you guys use a ruler. I'm doing it freehand on the computer. It's a bit harder. Okay. All right. There you go. And now let's give this next one a go. Okay, so we've popped in the list, and we saw we should have circled that it was 25 to make sure we got to row 25, which we did, and we checked it up. Now, if you look at this, they're doing it in groups of, if you've got 160, 61, 62, 63, and 64, that's intervals of 5. Yeah, so that means your bin equals 5. Okay, so when we go to draw our histogram, so let's go home and the little graph page, go down the bottom. I called it height. Click that, menu, plot type, histogram. Now, this one isn't doing it in groups of 5, so I definitely want to change it. So menu, plot properties, histogram properties. Remember, that's called bin settings and equal bin width. So I want to change it to 5. And I want to start it, alignment. I'm going to actually start it at 160 because that's the first one. So I'm going to start it at the first thing and click OK. Now, I can't see it. This often happens. So that's where you want to do the zoom. So menu, window zoom, zoom data will just make it nice and pretty for you. There you go. All right, so now I can go through the categories. The first category was 5 points. That's good. That's what they said. They said then we can see the second one is 5. The third one was 5. The fourth one was 7. The next one was 2. And the last one was 1. Much easier to fill in your frequency table than to count them because you already entered it in anyway, and you're going to have to draw one so we can make sure we're right. So we can see the first 3 need to go across like that. You don't have to colour them in, so you can do just shading like that, boys, in the test and exam. And then the next one was 7. So you just need to use a ruler and you can just shade if you like. What was the next one? 2. No? Yep. 2.